What's up, guys? So I've seen some of these van videos online. People show you their van and how cool their setup is. My van is trashed. So somebody asked me to show them what kind of tools I use when I'm doing floor jobs. So I'm gonna kind of give you guys a tour of my dirty ass van and show you all of my tools. Well, all the tools that I use for floor care. First, I want to start up here on the ceiling. You see all these lights up here. I got these on Amazon, and I think they were like maybe $15. And basically, I just hooked it up to some wiring, like right up behind me. There's just like a wire here, and I connected it. And now it's basically daylight inside this van. That's part of the reason I'm out here filming tonight. You can see, it's 10 o'clock at night. It's dark out there, but it's pretty much daylight in here. So I'm pretty happy with that purchase. It's probably one of the coolest things I've done to my van. Alright, so my front camera apparently doesn't work on my phone anymore. That's one reason why I'm doing the iPhone challenge. But I'll use the front facing camera and just show you what I can. This is a mop wringer. I use that on my yellow mop bucket. And then, see, I got my blue one down here. Those are my two mop buckets. And whenever you strip and wax floors or scrub floors or whatever, you want to use two mop buckets. One, you put your chemicals in, and then the other one, you put your rinse water in. And what you do is you flood the floor using one of these mop buckets, and you just use a mop head and you put water directly on the floor and flood the floor. And then when the water's on the floor, that's when you use your scrubbing machine right there that I have. And I scrub that floor using all these different pads. Now they're different colored. The lighter ones are the softest, and then the darker ones are the roughest. So these ones are for stripping, and these ones are for just like buffing. And then like red and green, that's for cleaning and stuff. This purple one is a high productivity pad, and that gets rid of just about anything. That's probably the strongest pad I've ever used. So I scrub the floor using that. Let me come over to the other side of my van real quick. It's so dirty. I need to clean it out. I've been doing jobs. I've been doing so many jobs. I just haven't had time to clean out the van lately. Like by the time you get done with a 10-hour job, the last thing you want to do is sit and clean your van. But it needs to get done because it's embarrassing if customers see in here. So on my buffing machine, I use these little pads. And this is called a scrubbing block. See, it's got bristles on it, like a big ass toothbrush. And I have 3 of these. This one has black bristles, so this one's more aggressive than that other red one that I showed you. This one has white bristles. This is the one that actually holds the pads on. This is a pad holder. And each one of these things are probably between $300 and $400 a piece. And they're really nice because you want to use the ones with bristles so that you can get down in grout lines and cracks and crevices. So you flood the floor using the mop buckets, then you scrub it using that scrubbing machine. There's a couple different scrubbing machines, and typically you want one that's low speed for just scrubbing, and you want a high speed one for buffing. And I got one in my garage. I got 2 of them in my garage. I could show you in a minute. I got my vacuum here. That's the next step. Is once you have all that water on the floor, and it's like a big thick sludge, and sometimes it's like really greasy and gross, you want to vacuum that up using a wet vac. Or when I first started out, I actually used a shop vac, and that worked just fine. Some of the old school guys, they would mop floors with just a mop bucket. Like they would just dump all their floor stripper or whatever on the floor, and then in order to get it off the floor, they would just mop it up with their clean mop water. But I don't really think that's the best way to do it these days, and you definitely want one of these. I remember before I got one, my wife was on her hands and knees with a little 5-gallon shop vac that we had, and we were in this greasy restaurant. She was just covered in grease everywhere. It was so gross. I felt so bad for her. But that night, it was a 3-night job, and they paid me $1,000 the first night, and I went out and I took half that money and I bought this bad boy. So after you suck up the water using that vacuum, that's when you're going to use your other mop bucket with the water in it, and you rinse the floor really, really good. You get all the dirt and crud off the floor with the clean mop water. Then after that, you can dry the floor, and I got a little floor dryer right here. This little thing blows air on the floor and it dries it out. That way you can apply your wax in your floor finish. So we'll come back over here. Let me try and find it. See, I use this holder here, and it holds a pad. This pad's dirty. I got off a job literally at 5 o'clock this morning, and I've been sleeping all day. So that's actually why my van is totally trashed. And I have this dirty ass pad on here. But this flat pad, I use that to spread out all my floor wax. And I have 5 gallons of floor wax right here. That's probably about $150. But most jobs, I really only use maybe half of a gallon. And it also comes in regular gallons. Well, I don't have any of the gallon jugs on hand, but basically they're just like this. And I just go through so much of this stuff. I buy 5 gallons at a time. I also have this big 5-gallon jug of floor stripper. That's also about 150 gallons, or 150 gallons. That's also 5 gallons, but it costs about $150. And you use a lot more floor stripper, but the thing is you only need to strip floors maybe once a year. The rest of the time you're just cleaning it and then waxing it. So I've got a bunch of those pads. I've got a million of these pads to spread out the floor wax and make it a nice thin surface over the floor. So after you do everything and you start laying wax, you want to put between 4 and 6 coats of wax down. And then you can use your floor dryer to speed up the process. But that's basically it. Those are the tools that I use for that job. And I have a lot more tools that I haven't showed you guys. Like there's my carpet extractor. You've seen that in another video. I've got a couple of these vacuums here. I got like this sprayer thing that I use for carpet cleaning and stuff. You can see back there I got some wet floor signs. This is like a little steamer that I use for steam cleaning grout. Trying to think if there's anything else. I got a few extension cords, 100-foot extension cords. That way I can move my vacuum around. Because I mean the cord's like the cord's like 2 feet. So I use extension cords to move that around. While we're talking about extension cords, this guy, my floor buffer, this takes up so much power that it will blow circuits. If you run 2 of these machines on one job, you'll blow the circuit and the building just won't be able to take it. So like I can't really do any residential work because this machine just sucks up too much power. So one thing that I didn't mention is when I'm cleaning the floor, along with using this scrubber, I have these green pads and I connect them to this. This is called a doodle pad holder, and that pad's called a doodle pad. And basically when you flood the floor, you use this along the wall and you just scrub right up next to the wall, and that gets rid of all that buildup of wax and grease around counters and things like that. And you'll notice a lot of amateurs, or a lot of people who try and wax their own floors, they don't realize that they need to do that. And you'll see in a lot of older buildings just thick black crap all the way around the border. And that's how you avoid it, is by using one of those doodle pads. So another thing that I hooked that up to the same pole that I have my applicator pad on. It's just like an interchangeable thing. Another thing is I have this off right now, but this is a floor squeegee, and I hook my pole up to this also. But that's so I can move water around. Like if I get some flooding going on, or I need to move water away from one area, or maybe I need to pull water out from underneath the countertop, and because my vacuum's really big and I can't get the vacuum under there, so I need to pull the water out, I use these floor squeegees to kind of manipulate the water and have control over it. So as far as chemicals go, I showed you some that I use. I also use this, it's a high power degreaser, and this is for fats, grease, and oils. That's really good for restaurants. I got a whole bunch of this stripper. This is the same stuff that's in that big box I showed you. I've got a bunch of distilled water. The steamer takes distilled water only. This stuff is just regular floor cleaner, and you can just use that on the floor directly to clean the floors. You can either mop that on to maintain the floors, or if you're going to scrub a floor and you don't need to strip it, you use that instead of the stripper. Not really related to hard floor care, but this is for my carpet cleaner. It's this has got enzymes in it that eat bacteria that cause odor. So this is what I use when I'm going out and I'm doing the place like that, that pet place, the boarding place. So that's what I use there. So anyway, that's a tour of my van, and that's not everything, but these are the tools that I use for floor care. I got a bunch of stuff out in my garage. That's where I keep all my other tools and stuff in between jobs. But right now the van's set up for floor care, so that's what I wanted to show you tonight. Hopefully the rain isn't bothering you guys. It's raining pretty bad out there, so hopefully that's not too annoying. But if you guys are thinking about starting a business or you think this is interesting, subscribe, and I'd like to see you guys around. So we'll see you next time.